Hey guys, it's the Gaming Guy bringing you my video about the history of Legend of Zelda. The Legend of Zelda series consists of almost 13 games. It's a series that has and hopefully always will win my heart over. It has been almost 27 years since the first Legend of Zelda came out, and today we will be looking through the history of the series. 7 years after the video game crash of 1977, Nintendo released their first home console, the NES. With the release of NES, a new generation of games began, with great games like Mario, Metroid and Contra were released. The original Legend of Zelda was one of the games that defined the generation of gaming. There was an extreme sense of exploration and adventure throughout the game. The game was extremely non-linear too. You could reach the final boss without even getting the sword. Recently, it has been criticized by everyone all over the internet for being a flawed game. But come on guys, this is the NES, and this is as good as it got. Nevertheless, the original Legend of Zelda was a great game and really revolutionized the particular genre and gaming in general. A year after The Legend of Zelda, The Adventure of Link was released. It was the odd one out of the bunch, and actually the only direct sequel to the original. Even though it seems like it ignored the little story that there was in the first game, as Zelda in this game has been sleeping for millennia. It was actually a side-scroller and only one in the series. Fans are on the extreme end for this game. They either love it or hate it. I kinda have mixed feelings about this game. I love it as it tried something new rather than sticking to the same formula, but hated it or just didn't like it as much as the other games because it just doesn't have the charm of the other games. Another problem I have with this game is that it was extremely hard and kind of felt unfair in many situations. Still, it was a decent game, didn't leave as much impression as the original, but it was okay. Moving on. After the release of Adventures of Link on the NES, the franchise went without a release for 4 years. Everybody knew that Nintendo was planning something big for the series. So, after the grand release of the Nintendo 16-bit console, the Super NES, they put the latest Zelda game on their precious new console. And at last, The Link to the Past was released. Considered by many to be the best 2D Zelda game and even the best Zelda game all around. I don't know why, but I never thought of Link to the Past as groundbreaking, but I still can appreciate what it did for the franchise. A Link to the Past actually took the formula that made the original great and improved on it at many levels. I could see why people consider it the best 2D Zelda game even though I was not one of them. The reason is that the thing about the original that really resonated with me was its non-linearity, and A Link to the Past felt like a more guided experience. A Link to the Past was later re-released for the Nintendo Game Boy Advance as Link to the Past and Four Sword, a multiplayer co-op title. Link's Awakening was the first handheld Zelda game and surpassed all the expectations and still remains to be the best game on the Game Boy and still considered by many, including me, to be the best handheld Zelda game, along with another game we'll be getting to in a bit. And the best 2D Zelda game. At first this game was supposed to be a Link to the Past port, but got a different storyline in development. What really sells this game for me is the story. It holds a special place in my heart because of its different story, so different that this legend doesn't even take place in Hyrule, but on Koholint Island. It didn't even have Zelda or Ganon in it. It does have very interesting characters like Marin, who has something to do with Link. The relation between Link and Marin is just simply cute. She constantly helps Link to get off the island, but at the same time she wants to stay with him. It truly deserves the praise it gets. It was later re-released for the Game Boy Color as Link's Awakening DX and also as a downloadable content for the 3DS. In 1998, one of the greatest moments in the history of gaming took place. Ocarina of Time, the first 3D Zelda game, was released for the Nintendo 64. Thank God they didn't call it the Zelda 64. Ocarina of Time formed the basis of the split timeline Nintendo developed over the years. Ocarina of Time is not only considered to be the best Zelda game, but the best game of all time, securing 99 out of 100 on Metacritic. I'm again a little different on it, don't get me wrong, it's an amazing game, but I can think of few that could surpass it. The thing I like about the game is that they took all the good things about the franchise and took it to a whole new level. And I'm talking about 3D by that. Koji Kondo is a genius in every sense of the word. He was able to come up with such themes that still resonate with us. The game was great, and I'm not the one who disagrees. This game has recently been re-released for the 3DS as Ocarina of Time 3. Majora's Mask was a follow-up to Ocarina of Time released on the same console. This game was quite different in terms of the atmosphere of the game. Though not as popular as its predecessor, I think it's slightly better than it. The whole game had such a dark feeling to it. You just have to look up to the sky to know what you're up for. Some were turned off by the emphasis put on the side quests rather than dungeon, but that's what I love about the game, just helping people. It forms a relationship with these characters that you wouldn't have cared about otherwise. The Anju and Cafe side quest is one of my favorite gaming experiences. Another mechanic of this game that is quite bash is the 3D mechanic, and yet I can't see why. The game also offers a lot of variety due to its nearly 24 different masks, even though not all of them I use that much. Oracles of Season and Ages for the Game Boy Color was released almost 8 years after the first handheld Zelda game, Link's Awakening. It's a bit weird for me to talk about this game as I've not played it yet. So I'm just going to talk about it on the basis of what I've heard and seen. These games were developed by a subsidiary of Capcom and not Nintendo. Both the games are pretty... I heard that the games were first planned to be a trilogy and interconnected in some way. These two games look great and I want to try them as soon as possible. Wind Waker was released on the GameCube. This is the worst Zelda game till date. Just look at those cel-shaded graphics. Yucks. Just kidding. But this is what many people said. Some even said that this doesn't even qualify for a Zelda game. I don't get why. This was a great game. I really loved the graphics. Yeah, I said it. The game has aged brilliantly because of it. This game is opposite of Majora's Mask. It was light, cheery, and just so happy. Some of the people hate the sailing part, but come on, where's your sense of exploration? Some hated the cry for scavenger hunt, and I could see why. But it's just a minor problem. It's like saying Ocarina of Time is bad because Navi is annoying, and you can't say that. An HD remake for this game with a few added features has been released for the Wii U. The Minish Cap released for the Game Boy Advance is said to be the best handheld Zelda game to date. It was a game developed by Capcom and not Nintendo. The Minish Cap is quite controversial regarding the timeline. The timeline thing can take a whole video, so I'm not going to talk about it in detail here. See, before this game came out, Ocarina of Time was considered to be the first game according to the timeline. But the release of this game spawned many theories trying to prove that this game was first. You see, this game had a map very similar to that of Ocarina of Time, and also it shows how Link first got its cap. Even though the official timeline from Nintendo says that Ocarina of Time is first, but I don't know, it's just a bit odd. Still, it was a good game, so who cares? Twilight Princess was released for the Nintendo GameCube and later for the Wii. Twilight Princess fell under fire of a lot of hate, saying that it is the worst thing to happen to a Zelda game since the CDI. Even though it is not great, especially for Zelda standards, I had a fun experience playing through it. The only problem I had with this game is that it tried way too hard to be dark, but it ended up being dark not in a unique way, but kind of in a visual way. Nintendo taking out the color doesn't make a game dark, it just makes it dull. And it's not like it hasn't been done before. Take Majora's Mask for example. Even though I wish Twilight Princess was better than it actually was, because it had a lot of potential with all the dark, gritty storyline it had going for it. But it's a good game to have in it. Phantom Hourglass was released for the DS as somewhat of a sequel to Wind Waker. The cel-shaded graphics, sailing, etc. from Wind Waker are all present in this game too. The different thing about this game is that it is fully touch control, which may seem to be gimmicky at first and could have ruined the game and sucked the fun out of it if not done well. But Nintendo did an amazing job of the controls. The controls were fantastic and added a new dimension to the game. For example, you can trace the path where you want your boomerang to go. The story was cool and and with some twist and fun character. I haven't completed the game yet, so please no spoilers about the ending of the game. With the release of Phantom Hourglass, Nintendo didn't waste any time to give us a follow-up to it. Thus, Spirit Track was released 2 years later on the same handheld system. I'll be very honest, when I first saw the game, I thought the game was pretty stupid. Really? Link riding your train? What's next? Link the taxi driver? But though the first impression of this game was not that good, I really enjoyed the game when I played it myself. At first, Spirit Tracks seems like a carbon copy of Phantom Hourglass. Just like Phantom Hourglass, it had a similar theme, collecting 4 pieces of map and returning again and again to the same central dungeon. But even with the similarities with Phantom Hourglass, it does manage to get something new out there. Even though it may look stupid to some hardcore Zelda fans, but it is a game I would definitely recommend you try it out. Skyward Sword was released for the Wii in 2011. This game probably has the best setting in any Zelda game. Even though I like the dark atmosphere of Majora's Mask, it can be sometimes a little too depressing. Skyward Sword, on the other hand, had a light, cheery atmosphere which you can't just get enough of. Also, for the first time in a Zelda game, I cared about Zelda as a character and her relationship with Link. She is not just nobody in a sleep or asking for your help. Also, this game has the best collection of bosses in my opinion. This game was somewhat trashed for having bad controls, but the motion controls worked well for me. Don't get me wrong, I love the traditional control and by no means saying motion controls are the scheme that should be used for all future games. But it works for this game nonetheless. Now for the final game in the series, A Link Between the Worlds, was released for 3DS in 2013. I haven't played the game or even seen enough footage for me to be able to comment on it. But I have been watching a few reviews and all that I can gather from it is that it's amazing but quite short, especially for a Zelda game. I really wish to get my hands on a 3DS and A Link Between Worlds as soon as possible.